Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Lorraine Ladish and I'm the founder of Viva50.com and LorraineCLadish.com and the author of several books. One of them is Reach, From Single Mom on Welfare to Digital Entrepreneur, which you can find on Amazon. If you like what you're listening to, please subscribe to my channel. And well, today I'm going to tell you a story. It's a story of surviving and overcoming depression and anxiety and how I decided to start writing about it in blogs and videos, even though I've written about it in books, including my latest, which is in Spanish, Tu Mejor Edad, Your Best Age by HarperCollins. So although now I do mostly yoga, I've been a runner for most of my life. And recently, I still go for runs. I injured my hip in a half marathon a few years ago, so I don't run as much, but I still run once in a while. And the story starts when I was wearing my road ID bracelet, and in it I have in case something happens to me when I'm running, I have my name, my address, my husband's phone number, and most importantly, the medication I'm on. So I'm wearing this bracelet and I forgot to take it off when we're having dinner. And my kids, who I've shielded from this information for all of their lives until now, well, now they're 16, my eldest, the boy is 14, and my youngest, who is the one who saw my bracelet, is 13. So we're having dinner and the youngest reads what it says on my bracelet. It says Lexapro/Klonopin. And turns out that she knows the names of these meds because of some lyrics of rap songs, I guess. So she asked, "Mommy, what is that?" For a minute, my heart stopped because I didn't know how to answer. You know, something happens to me in the street and they have to take me to a hospital. I want them to know what medication I'm on. The look on my kids' faces was, my eldest just opened her eyes and pretended like, she didn't know what was going on. She said later, afterwards, she said, "Mommy, is it because of me?" So they asked me about it, of course, and I had to explain to them that Mommy, that's me, has a chemical imbalance in her brain and she needs to take these medications. Other people who have diabetes, for example, however you pronounce it, or any other condition, you have to take certain medication. Well, I have to take this because otherwise my brain just doesn't work the way it's supposed to. And yes, I could be severely depressed. And yes, I could have anxiety and panic attacks. In fact, I carry my anti-anxiety meds in my handbag just in case I have a panic attack driving or in any other situation, especially driving, because that's like a very dangerous thing. Since that day, which was not very long ago, was a month ago or a month and a half, a couple months maybe, I have had more than one conversation with my daughters. In a way, I felt liberated because I thought, you know what, now I don't have to hide it anymore. Not from them. And the reason, it wasn't that I was hiding it because I was embarrassed with them. It was more because it's like I also have a fear of heights, and my kids didn't know until relatively recently, a few years ago. I didn't want them to inherit that from me by watching, because I know that kids model what they see and feel, and I felt pretty good that I was able to kind of keep them from that information for a while. But now that the conversation has opened, I've let them know I'm discussing online what it's like to have lived with depression and anxiety, and to give hope to other women or other people of any gender, age, or anything, that there is life after depression. There is life after having battled with it for most of your life and with anxiety. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not a specialist. I'm just a woman who, from a very early age, started battling with these things. And I'm just going to share a little bit of my journey and hope that it motivates other people to keep on going and keep on fighting the good fight, because oh gosh, I'm going to cry because it's worth it. It is really, really worth it. I know if you follow me on Instagram, my handle is Lorraine Ladish. I post a ton of beautiful pictures, but I always try to keep it real and post sometimes. You know, I'm there. There's nothing wrong, or there's like, you can be joyful and optimistic and empowering, but also be battling something, and that is my case. I've won many battles in life, and one of them was a terrible eating disorder, which took me 20 years to overcome, and I shared about that recently on my website, view50.com, and you can go there and read the post. I will make a video as well. But I want to focus this video only on anxiety and depression. So I'm going to start with a hopeful note, with a good note, which is that for the past 13 years, that's 1-3, I'm 54, so it was from I was 41, I think. My math is really bad, so I turned 55 in August. So, but it's been around 12, 13 years. I've been on the meds that are listed on my road ID, the same dose, the same everything, nothing changed for 13 years. But this was the right cocktail for me. And this has, my goodness, when I can't even believe it. Like, I'm really scared of these drugs going off the market, because again, they were and are the right cocktail for me. They enable me to get up in the morning and function and be creative. I'm a writer, I'm a blogger, I'm a speaker, I'm a mom. I also practice yoga, and the reason why I started practicing yoga when I was really young and continue now, and I've been a runner, a dancer, very physically active all my life, was exactly because of this, because I needed to find an outlet for my mental health issues. I have a history in my family of mental illness. One of my very, very close family members is the survivor of a suicide attempt, and thankfully she was not successful at it, which I am very, very grateful for. My paternal grandfather was also a very depressive person. I believe his mother had some very severe mental illness. My father also tends towards a melancholy state of mind. It's funny because it's one of those things that when you have depression or anxiety, they're two different things, but they're related. And I know there's a host of other mental health issues out there which I cannot speak about with authority because I haven't experienced them. But so again, my main message here for people who are watching this who may be battling depression now and anxiety, and you just can't find the right cocktail for you, is keep on trying. Don't give up. There is most likely something for you. But listen, I found the right thing in my 40s. So imagine all my life before that was spent trying to find what medication worked for me. And for those people who think that medication is not the answer, I respect that. I've tried everything from, goodness, homeopathy, acupuncture, hypnotherapy, Bach flowers, everything under the sun. I have tried that. I mean, it's been since I was 17 years old until 41, when that wonderful doctor really saved my life. So I know what it's like to be looking for natural solutions and all that. I meditate. I practice yoga every day, but that is not enough for me. I still need that medication, and yet I need less of it, because the meditation and the yoga enables me to kind of watch the anxiety, or the, not depression, because I haven't battled that for a long time, but if I have bouts of anxiety, which is not the same as being nervous. There's one thing is butterflies in your stomach or being nervous before doing a Facebook Live or before speaking in public or before anything like that. And it's a whole different story to have a panic attack, for example, when you're driving, which to me feels like I get tunnel vision. I can't see. It's like an aura right before a migraine. You can't see, anything. You feel a little bit like an out-of-body experience, which it has taken me my whole life to figure out that it has a name, and it's called either depersonalization or derealization, which is a feeling of not being quite in your body and kind of watching yourself, but you're not really watching yourself. You just feel really distant from you, and it feels like you're gonna die or you're gonna have a stroke or something really, really bad is gonna happen to you. It's super scary. And so the yoga and the meditation have helped me kind of see that and not go into full-blown panic when I start feeling it. And on the other hand, I can breathe. I can, if I'm driving, I certainly pull over. I don't want to cause an accident or, have something happen to me or my kids. So I know that it's not a weakness to pull over, breathe, but I also confess my Klonopin is in my bag so that I can take a small dose as needed, and so I can go back to functioning and driving and finishing my trip. Now, when I was really young, I'm just going to tell you that I do get that it's not so easy. I think when I started realizing I had depression, and depression, if you're somebody watching who is not somebody who's depressed, but maybe you have a family member who's going through it and you just don't know what to do and you feel terrible and just think that, it's in their head. And I mean, it certainly is in your head, but not in the way that we just say, you're making it up. Having a bad day, being sad, grieving, for an external reason, that's called exogenous circumstances, things that are outside of you, is very different from what a doctor once told me is that I had endogenous depression, which is something that has nothing to do with what's going on outside. And it could be, which it is in my case, a chemical imbalance. And some of us have that, and that's it. There's no easy way to know what is going to work for you and what is not. So I've also experimented under doctor supervision, of course, all kinds of medication, from lithium salts when I was in my 20s, which I remember they had to draw blood like every week or every couple of weeks to make sure that the lithium was not like, it wasn't too much, because I think it can kill you. I mean, it's like all these things that are not fun. The feeling of depression for me was like, oh goodness, so many feelings. Like I've had at least 3 big clinical depressions that put me to bed, and one landed me in the ER in Spain. This feeling that life really is not worth living, like you do not want to, you have no reason to live, no reason to smile, no reason for anything. There's this emptiness there. I could describe it as a crushing pain in your chest, like a heavy, heavy load that just doesn't go away at all. Other times when people would say, yeah, just go out, you just need to see people. Well, that doesn't work, because it only exacerbates the feeling of loneliness, of desperation. And I remember going out with a boyfriend I had at the time, and we were walking in the street, and he knew that I was depressed. I knew that I was depressed. And it was cold outside, and I felt like we were walking in the street, and I just felt, I had this feeling like a cold hand was gripping my heart and squeezing it. I was crying, but it wasn't just a normal crying. It was a visceral, very deep, something you can't control. It's not something that you, again, can talk yourself out of. It's scary. It's very scary. It could mean that your body feels like lead, your muscles feel like lead. I recall, I was trying to find photos to see if I could share them, but I have photos of myself at 25 where There's something about the look in my eyes that even if you didn't know that I had depression, you would just look at that photo and say, there's something wrong with her. There's this heaviness in the in everything. It's even if you smile, people are gonna notice. That was in the like the most desperate like throes of depression. And as I said, I've had three, at least three that I can remember that were long. One of them lasted months. And one of them, it was after a breakup with said boyfriend that I just mentioned. And I was 30 or 31, and it lasted like 8 months. And I went from one psychiatrist to another. I could write a book about that experience alone. And one of the things that I think was the hardest was not so much to admit that I was depressed, but that I needed to take medication, or that I was looking for medication, because most people who have not had depression will tell you, oh, just meditate, relax, get a massage, go for a walk, talk to a friend. Well, honestly, in the throes of clinical depression, none of that works. It could help, but if somebody reaches out to you and says, I don't want to live, just telling them, think of your kids, think of, write a gratitude list. I'm a big advocate of gratitude list. It's taken me out of more than one funk. But again, when we're talking about clinical depression, this is not a joke. It's not to be taken lightly. One of the things that looking back, I realized I made a mistake in my life was letting other people manage how I managed my depression or anxiety. My now ex-husband would tell me that I did not need medication. He didn't believe in medication, therefore I should not use it. And because my self-esteem was low, because my self-worth was not where it had to be because of the depression, I paid attention and I thought, wow, well, it is a weakness. I shouldn't be taking these pills. And I went off of them, and it was awful. And I had to go to therapy. Well, I didn't have to. I chose to go to therapy, but it wasn't really helping me because I already knew what was going on. I have the gift curse of self-awareness, and honestly, all the talking in the world with a psychologist isn't going to take away the chemical imbalance you have in your brain, period. At least for me. What I would say is stand up for you. One thing that, to your husband, to your father, to your whoever the heck is telling you that you don't need meds, let the doctors tell you that. And if you're not satisfied with one doctor, go to another doctor. But it's your mental health, it's your emotional health, it's your life. I will always, always be thankful for that one doctor who happened to to hit upon the meds that were right for me. And that was right after I moved from Spain. I was med-free with both my pregnancies and post-pregnancies while I was breastfeeding. If you need meds while you're breastfeeding and you're pregnant and the doctor says you're okay with that, go ahead. Honestly, who the heck is to judge? But for me, I was fortunate that the hormones of pregnancy and breastfeeding kicked in, and those kind of seemed to make up for the other meds I was taking, the SSRIs and the anti-anxiety meds. When I came from Spain to live in the States almost 13 years ago, or past 13 years ago, I was weaning my baby, and then presto, there were a few things that were happening in my life as well. Well, first of all, this big, huge move, and then, my husband lost his job, and we were not in a good place, and so I had a panic attack driving my kids, a baby and a toddler, in the back seat. And I remember pulling over and crying because I was so scared. I just was scared for them. I was scared for me. I found a doctor, and I had my then husband come with me, and I told the doctor, I think I'm going crazy. The doctor first told me, you are not. Just the fact that you think you might be is a good indication that you are not. He explained to me exactly, how cortisol works. And, I told him my whole entire history of how I had dealt with this imbalance. And he said, well, let's try with the meds that are listed right here. And after a whole life of hits and misses, and we hit the jackpot. Not even 2 weeks later, I was a different person to this day. So I also remember telling that doctor, can you please tell my husband why I need this? Well, that husband and I are no longer together. We're still friends, and we still talk, and we co-parent our kids. But I am pretty proud of myself for continuing to take my medication. I don't experiment. Like, I'm feeling pretty good in general, and I've been feeling great for a long time. Of course, I go through my days, like I have a bad day. I honor that. That could be because something did happen. I had a problem with my teen, or a gig with a client didn't come through, or life happens, and I'm going through menopause. Actually, I think I'm on the other side now. That messed a little bit with my brain chemistry as well. But I think one of the most important things to realize is that, goodness, that it's okay to take meds. If somebody has a heart condition or high blood pressure and they have to take meds for it, I want to hear someone say, oh, you don't need that, just take some tea. It's very easy to judge from the outside if you have never been through this. I do not wish depression on my worst enemy. I do not wish a panic attack on my worst enemy. And I don't wish the combination of both on the worstest enemy. And if you are going through this, I don't care if you're 16, 18, 20, 30, 80, I encourage you to not let anybody else's opinion make you feel less than or like you're crazy. That I dislike that word so much. I used to be ultra sensitive when somebody, and I think I still am, if somebody says, oh, you're crazy, I something in me goes off. It's like, oh. You're not crazy. You have a condition. And again, just like somebody who has cancer, which I have many friends battling that, you don't choose that. You don't choose to have a mental condition or illness or imbalance. But it's something you can live with. It's something you can cope with. And I'm here to tell you at 54 that it can take a lot of years, a lot of trial and error for you to find the solution to your particular situation. Some people do well with the medication I take. Some people have horrible side effects. Some people do well on other meds. And some people choose to go off of them because they feel good. And for me, the fact that I feel good is actually an indication that I am fine. And I, thank you very much, do not want to go back to that very dark and awful place. I want to continue writing books and be a mom and a wife to a guy who actually supports the fact that I take pills, because he's like, well, if it helps you function, it helps you function. Be an advocate for you. Please don't feel you're alone. A lot more people than you will ever imagine take pills and do not talk about it, because there is still a huge stigma, and you will hear a lot about, well, you shouldn't be doing that, you should go the natural way and all that. I say do whatever is good for you. And I honestly, after a lifetime of dealing with this, I feel that I have the authority to say, yes, that if that pills do work, if they are the right ones, that it might take a lot of time to find the right ones for you, and that it is good to do other things. It's good to go to therapy. It's good to practice sports. It's good to meditate. But I cannot imagine my life without the medication that worked for me. So don't let stigma get in the way of you asking for help. I have done that in the past. I really let that mess me up. I have done things that, like like build my own business and public speaking and writing 18 books and having them published by publishers and starting over in a different country, losing it all at 45 and, you know, making it back. And I explained that in my book, Reach from Single Mama Welfare to Digital Entrepreneur, which you can find on Amazon. It's free this week, by the way. I know if you hear this later on, it won't be free then. You can have a fabulous life with all its ups and downs. The medication doesn't make life perfect. It doesn't take away life's challenges, but it enables me to function and write my books and do my sports, and it takes the edge off and it keeps me stable, which for me is fabulous. I could, you know, stop the meds and see, well, let's see what happens, but I have a life to live and I'm not increasing my dose, as I said. I'm fine. I'm managing my life as best as I can. I'm just another woman warrior and boss girl out here trying to give a voice to the people who still are maybe in the closet about their mental health. And I hope, I really hope I have made you feel a little less alone. And if you are just, not just, but if you are a parent or a loved one of somebody with depression and anxiety, I hope maybe I have helped you realize that it's not a choice, it's something that happens to you, and that if you've not gone through it yourself, you will never know. And I hope you never find out what it feels like to have anxiety or depression. That said, I want to end up on the same positive note that I started with, which was for the past 13 years, I have really basically lived clinical depression free. And I think the last really, really bad one was when I was 30 and I'm 54. So that's pretty good. And it can happen for you too. So if you like what you heard, subscribe to my channel and I'll see you here next time. Bye.